What we wanted to discuss today is the 5 mistakes you are currently making when setting up a food forest. Problem number 1 is improper planting. There's several things to consider when planting your trees and your plants, and I think the most preeminent thing when planting is to plant everything extremely high. You can never plant too high, but if you plant too low, you will end up with the same problem that we originally had here in this front food forest. Is our trees lagged and suffered because the root flare wasn't exposed, they weren't getting proper oxygenation, and so it's really important how you plant your trees. You want to plant them as high as possible. This is why when I don't like planting smaller trees, I will put smaller trees in a 5-gallon bucket to increase the size of the root structure, so therefore I can pop it out of that 5-gallon bucket with a very large root structure, and then I can plant it almost as high as I want it. If you have a tree that comes out of a 5-gallon bucket with a fully mature root system, you could technically plant it 5 or 6 inches deep, and it's going to be held up by that root structure. Just mound the dirt up around it. I'm not suggesting that, but it's just to overemphasize the fact, plant it absolutely as high as you can get it. Then you're not having to dig out and do all these things. So planting high is critically important. Yeah, before we talk about the second mistake you are making, I want to give a shout out to our new Food Forest in a Box. Is currently available at TheTexasBoys.com. Head on over there and check it out. So if you are establishing a food 401k, a food forest, or a survival food jungle, you are definitely going to want to check out the Food Forest in a Box over at TheTexasBoys.com. So problem number 2 is inadequate watering. And there's several things with watering. Now, here in Texas, we have to be very concerned with watering because we do get incredibly dry and have very long dry periods. What y'all northerners refer to as droughts, yeah, we get them a lot, but that's kind of like our normal state of operation. So how we have combated that, we're going to talk about mulching later. That's huge, but we've done it with using swales on contour to capture runoff. That's a huge tip, using swales on contour and then mulching in those swales to retain the water so that it doesn't evaporate. And secondarily, we've used drip lines, which is like a 3/8 poly. It's incredibly inexpensive. The drip heads are more expensive. My buddy Chris over at Financial Prepper is using this drip tape product that I want to check out because it's incredibly inexpensive and it's perforated, but I got to get more information on that. But I've been using this Rainbird 3/8 drip line. It's very inexpensive, it's very quick and easy to set up, and that is how we have. None of this was really on contour. There wasn't any way of catching water over here, so we just ran a 3/8 poly line, dropped a drip at the base of every tree, and we use 1 gallon per hour drips. And you can see that all of these trees not only are well established, but they're doing incredibly well in spite of all the animals and whatnot that we've grazed in here to help the soil and whatnot. But that's your secondary mistake, is you want to make sure that you're properly irrigating, and along with irrigation comes that soil quality, and you want a well-draining soil. Mistake number 3 is planting in terrible soil. And our soil was very depleted, it was in very poor shape, and we have amended that whole process by rotating critters. So we rotated in pigs, chickens, and ducks, and that has incredibly helped the soil. The other thing that we do to immensely improve the soil is to do hardwood deep mulching with mixed tree trimmings and hardwood mulch. That does an inordinate amount of good to build up your soil. And by rotating in the animals, they reduced the pest pressure and they reduce the weed pressure. Once your trees are more established, you can rotate in larger animals. Now that this back food forest is probably about 5 years old, there's well over a couple hundred trees back here. And now that things are more well established, we can rotate in larger animals. So problem number 4 is improper pruning. And I'll give you this tree as an example. This is one of our pear trees. And what you want to do is when you do prune the tree, now we have 400 trees, y'all. So we are more laid back when it comes to pruning because it takes an inordinate amount of time to prune 400 trees. But that's why the pruning, when you do it, is important. I know several people that they'll wait 4 or 5 years before they ever prune their tree. But what we've done is we want to sculpt the tree. Pears have incredible apiarial dominance, and they'll literally want to grow straight up. So what we do is we train the branches to weep like this. This is another question I get a lot, like how big is this tree? How big is this tree going to get? Any tree, y'all, is going to get as big as you prune it. So you can always prune and manipulate a tree to be more dwarf, in the sense of if you keep it pruned low and you train it, like you can use twine or different kind of, we use like rubber type strapping, and bungee cords or whatever, little weights, and you can weight these branches down. This way, once the tree starts to weep, then as long as it requires some minimal pruning just to keep it clean, but it will produce more. And not only that, the fruit will be accessible where you can actually pick it. Problem number 5 is inadequate mulching. Here's what's neat about mulching, y'all, is mulching is actually going to address your soil quality and your irrigation. So it is kind of like a magical fix-all in the sense of it's going to improve your soil quality, it's going to improve the soil food web and all the mycorrhizal, fungals, and all these different things. And it's going to decrease more than 50% the amount that you will have to irrigate if you do properly mulch your trees. And this pile that we are standing on was at one point in time about 60 to 80 yards of mulch that we received from our electrical co-op free of charge. We just asked them, hey, put me at the top of the drop list. And they dropped like 6 or 7 truckloads in here, and it's continued to break down. And it's right here next to one of our food forests. And like, for example, this Chicago Hardy, the reason that this tree is as big as it is with the fruit on it is because it is so heavily mulched that it's just gotten that much more, retained that much more water, which is why it's so much larger, and it still has fruit on it, even though the fruiting season is over. That's all directly related to this mulch. But this tree, just by its proximity to the mulch pile, has about 12 inches of mulch all the way around it. And that's the power of mulching, y'all. So those are the 5 most common mistakes when people are planting their food forest. Those are things that I've kind of learned over the last 5 or 6 years. Please remember, if you are looking to develop a survival food forest or a food 401k, check out TheTexasBoys.com. Check out our cuttings and our food forest in a box. Right now you can use Thanks 2023 and you can get 10% off whatever you buy over there at TheTexasBoys.com. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Have a great day.